The morning was supposed to be lighthearted, filled with laughter, music, and the usual charm that comes with live television. The Today Show had booked Teddy Swims, the soulful singer known for his raw vocals and heartfelt storytelling, to promote his new album and perform one of his latest singles. Viewers tuned in expecting another smooth appearance, a few laughs with the hosts, a quick chat about his tour, and a live rendition that would melt hearts. But what unfolded on live TV that morning was something no one saw coming: a tense exchange, an emotional breaking point, and an unexpected walk-off that left the studio buzzing and fans stunned across social media. From the moment Teddy Swims stepped onto the set, there was an unusual energy in the air. He smiled politely as the hosts introduced him, his usual warmth subdued by something beneath the surface. He was dressed in his signature casual yet expressive style, a patterned shirt, gold chains, and the kind of confidence that comes not from ego but from years of putting his soul into music. Yet, as he took his seat and adjusted his microphone, his body language hinted that something wasn't quite right. The conversation began smoothly, with the hosts congratulating him on the success of his latest record and his recent sold-out shows. Teddy responded with genuine gratitude, speaking about his fans, his love for performing, and how grateful he was for the support that had allowed him to chase his dream. Things took a sharp turn when one of the hosts brought up a sensitive subject. What was meant to be a question about his emotional songwriting veered into personal territory, touching on his struggles with mental health and his past experiences that had inspired some of his music. At first, Teddy handled it gracefully, explaining that his songs came from a place of honesty and that he had always wanted his listeners to feel understood. But as the questioning continued, it became clear that the hosts were pressing for more than artistic insight. They wanted personal details, stories about hardship, pain, and specific incidents that Teddy had never publicly discussed. The atmosphere shifted from friendly to invasive in a matter of seconds. Viewers at home noticed the tension right away. Teddy's smile faded as he looked down, trying to find a balance between professionalism and discomfort. One host asked him if his recent song, which dealt with heartbreak and self-doubt, was about a rumored breakup that had circulated online. Teddy paused for a moment, clearly taken aback. He tried to steer the conversation back to the music, saying, "It's more about healing, about learning to love yourself again after losing something important." But instead of letting that be the final word, the host pressed further, asking if he was referring to someone specific. The cameras caught a flicker of irritation in Teddy's eyes, a rare moment from an artist known for his calm and kindness. In the studio, the tension was palpable. The crew members glanced nervously at one another as the exchange grew increasingly uncomfortable. Teddy took a deep breath, leaned forward, and said quietly but firmly, "I came here to talk about my music, not my personal life." His tone wasn't angry, but it carried the weight of someone who had drawn a line. The hosts tried to smooth things over with nervous laughter, but the damage had already been done. Instead of easing up, one of them attempted to justify the question, saying that fans were simply curious and that transparency was part of being a public figure. That was when Teddy's composure began to crack. He leaned back in his chair, shook his head slightly, and said, "There's a difference between being transparent and being exploited." The remark landed heavily. The studio went silent for a moment, and even the hosts didn't seem to know how to respond. It was clear that Teddy had reached his limit. He tried to redirect the conversation one more time, talking about how music had saved his life and how he hoped his songs could do the same for others. But when another question touched on a recent social media controversy, one that had already been publicly debunked, Teddy stopped mid-sentence, sighed, and took off his microphone. The moment was surreal. Live on national television, Teddy Swims stood up, gave a polite but pained nod to the hosts, and said, "I think I'm done for today." One of the hosts reached out as if to stop him, saying, "Teddy, wait, we didn't mean," but he was already walking off stage. The cameras awkwardly cut to a commercial break as murmurs filled the studio. For a few seconds, viewers could still see the confusion on the hosts' faces before the screen faded out. Social media exploded within minutes. Clips of the incident began circulating on X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, with fans expressing both outrage and support. Many praised Teddy for standing his ground and refusing to let morning show hosts dig into his private life under the guise of authenticity. Others criticized the show for crossing a line, calling the questions tasteless and invasive. Some even pointed out that artists like Teddy, who wear their emotions on their sleeves through music, are often unfairly expected to relive their pain for the sake of entertainment. The debate quickly became a trending topic, sparking conversations about boundaries between artists and the media. Behind the scenes, sources later claimed that Teddy had already warned producers before the show that he didn't want to discuss his personal relationships or mental health struggles in detail. He had wanted the focus to remain on his album, its message of hope and connection, and not on rumors or past hardships. When the interview veered in that direction despite his request, it felt like a betrayal of trust. According to one crew member, Teddy had been cordial before the segment, laughing and chatting with staff, but his demeanor changed the moment he realized the interview was going to cross a line. "He's one of the most genuine people you'll ever meet," the source said. "He's open about his struggles, but on his own terms. What happened that day wasn't about transparency, it was about pushing too far." When the show returned from commercial break, the hosts tried to handle the aftermath as delicately as possible. They smiled awkwardly, saying, "We'll be right back with more today after this," as if nothing had happened. But viewers could see the tension in their expressions. Later that day, the Today Show's social media accounts quietly deleted promotional posts about Teddy's appearance. Meanwhile, Teddy himself remained silent for most of the day, posting only a short message on his Instagram story that read, "Protect your peace." The simple phrase was enough to send waves through his fanbase. Thousands of comments flooded in, expressing solidarity and frustration with how he had been treated. By the next morning, entertainment outlets picked up the story. Headlines ranged from sympathetic to sensational, some praising Teddy's strength, others framing the event as a meltdown. But fans who had followed his journey knew better. Teddy Swims had built his career on vulnerability, on sharing his heart through music rather than interviews. His songs, from "Lose Control" to "The Door," told stories of pain, redemption, and the power of self-love. To those who admired him, his decision to walk off wasn't an act of anger, it was one of self-respect. Industry peers quietly voiced their support as well. Fellow artists and producers posted messages defending Teddy's right to privacy. "You can't demand authenticity and then punish people for having boundaries," one singer wrote. "Teddy's one of the realest out there." Even some journalists acknowledged that the Today Show might have overstepped, noting that morning programs often blur the line between friendly conversation and prying interrogation in pursuit of viral moments. What had happened served as a reminder that empathy still matters, even in show business. In the following days, Teddy addressed the situation briefly during a live concert. Between songs, he paused and told the crowd, "Sometimes you've got to walk away from things that don't feel right. No hard feelings, just boundaries." The audience erupted in applause. He smiled, shook his head humbly, and went right back into singing, his voice carrying more conviction than ever. For fans, that small moment said more than any statement could. The Today Show later issued a subtle apology on air, with one host saying, "We always strive to create a comfortable environment for our guests, and sometimes live TV doesn't go as planned." They didn't mention Teddy by name, but the reference was unmistakable. Still, the apology did little to cool the discussion online. Many viewers called for shows to rethink how they approach artists who are known for their emotional transparency, arguing that vulnerability should be respected, not exploited for ratings. For Teddy Swims, the incident marked a turning point. It reminded the world that authenticity isn't about giving away every piece of yourself, it's about being honest without losing your dignity. In a culture that constantly demands more access, more confession, and more drama, his walk-off became a quiet act of rebellion. It wasn't loud or theatrical, it was calm, deliberate, and deeply human. And in the end, it reinforced what his fans already knew, that Teddy Swims is a man who sings from his soul and refuses to let the noise of fame drown out his truth. As the dust settled, his music streams soared, not because of the controversy, but because people revisited his songs with new understanding. His voice, raw, tender, unguarded, felt even more powerful in light of what had happened. The world saw an artist who wasn't afraid to be vulnerable, but also wasn't afraid to say, "Enough." In the ever-chaotic landscape of celebrity culture, that kind of integrity is rare. Teddy Swims didn't just storm off a set, he walked toward something bigger: self-respect, authenticity, and the unwavering belief that no interview, no matter how big, is worth compromising who you are.